Well, hello everyone. It's your girl Gabrielle from A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We are at a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So if you have been living under a rock, you have no idea what this web series is about. We are about things that are steamy, right? So things that are steamy in education, employment, psychology, social services, mental health, finance, psychology, all that good stuff. So we are a tutoring company, so we can't, get too steamy, but we like to kind of stay within our purview. And help me with that topic. And her name is Debbie Lindon. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Debbie Lindon. Let me get my banner here. So, who is Debbie Lindon? Let me tell you a little bit about her. So, Debbie Lindon is a retired special education teacher and a former preschool director who left when the pandemic hit to help care for her grandchild. She now runs her own business called Peaceful Vibes, which we'll talk about a little bit later. She is involved in helping her community and is also involved in activism. That is awesome. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to bring her to the forefront. Hi, Debbie. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Awesome.
Finding.
So you have a great story about, life as a teacher and now you're retired. And so I want my viewers to know your history a little bit and we'll delve into that. So please go ahead and share. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. My life as a teacher. Wow. It's um it's very rewarding to be a teacher, but it's also very, very tough to be a teacher. Even today. Not saying that I had it bad then compared to now. My kudos to all the teachers that are out there now, especially doing online and the pandemic. My hat is off to you guys, really. I started teaching in 1989 in a school district in New York. Um, and it was in Yonkers, if I can say that. It was also during the time that Yonkers was going through desegregation. If you guys really want to be interested in that whole hot topic, HBO did a whole series on it. Oh gosh, let me remember the name because the Tina Turner song always comes to my head. I think it's Another Hero or Who Needs Another Hero, something to that effect. I don't know why I always get it confused with the Tina Turner song. But anyway, when I started teaching, it was pretty tough. I taught special ed, and the kids were great. It was this just everyday thing of what's going on. I guess a lot of teachers can also relate to what I'm going to say even today. Again, pay was stinky, just like it is now. But also, we had a hard time even going back in the 80s, 90s, and even into this time, have problems with books. So we would always be asked to put a hit list of what we wanted and then come back with, hey, you got one teacher book, you got the student books, not the workbooks. You're going to have to make do with that. So even today, I know teachers can relate to this. It was really, really crazy. We had to run off pages, which we're not supposed to do, but we did. Very creative. The just the normal stuff of what was going on. Went through and taught there for like 17 years. And then I moved to Central New York. And in Central New York, it was a lot different than being in an inner city school. It's a rural area where where I'm was teaching, I should say. And it was very, very eye opening. The kids were kind of funny. They're great kids, don't get me wrong. I had one student, I love telling this story. I had one student who came in and figured, okay, new teacher, we'll just start off. And he started dropping the F-bomb all over the place, because I guess up here in the school, whatever, is if you gave off the F-bomb, you got thrown out of class. So he's doing F this, F that, a bit. And I just looked at him and said, "You done?" And he was like, "Aren't you going to throw me out?" And I'm like, "Honey, not where I come from. This is normal words." Then he came back and he started throwing the desks. Okay. Kids left the room. My assistant took them out and looked at them and I say, "You done?" And he said, "Yeah, aren't you going to throw me out?" Again, I was like, "Nope, nope, normal day from where I come from." And he stopped and we became really good buddies. It's very hard. It was very hard at that time. It was very hard now. If you're not a teacher, I would say please give us some props, because it is hard. And I'm going to give another scenario. We had a friend who had a good friend of mine who was also a fellow teacher. She had a birthday party for her daughter, and there were a bunch of teachers, parents and whatever. And one parent sent her child to a private school and turned around and said, "I don't understand teachers. They have it so easy," and on and on and on and on. And she ended it with, "I'm going to school to be a teacher, and I'm going to prove to everybody that this is really an easy deal." Okay. Summer left. I go into the school. Principal calls me in and says, "You're getting a student teacher." And kind of weird, but this girl asked for you. Turns out it was the parent at this party, my friend's party. She walks in. I tell my principal, "Hey, I'm giving you a heads up. This is what happened." So I take her in the classroom and I tell my assistant, who was also a friend of mine, "Remember the person I told you about? This is her." All right. She goes through the whole thing. I give her, she's watching the class. I'm teaching her. And then I give her a topic. I'll never forget the topic. It was science. It was volcanoes. And props to her. She really did a good job. And when she got finished, and actually as I'm watching her through the 6 to 8 weeks of her student teaching, I'm looking at her. She's coming in exhausted. She's tired. She did this magnificent thing on the volcanoes and finally looked at me and said, "I have to apologize to you. This is really tough work." And I sent her, then she had to do elementary teaching. And I sent her to a friend of mine, and she walked into her and she said, "I'm so sorry. I'm certain Deb told you about me. I'm going to apologize for whatever I said before, because my hat's off to you guys." And the ending of the story is actually she became a reading teacher, and she is a really good teacher, I have to say, and give her props. So that was one thing. It's also, I kind of advocate for teachers. I keep telling people it's not an easy job. I know here in New York, you need to have a master's degree, which to keep your job. I don't know what the other districts or other states give, but I know here in New York, you need a master's degree to keep your certification in teaching. And to get the pay is just, to have the pay go with whatever we have for our certification and our master's degree is pretty pitiful. But anyway, then I moved up here, getting back to my little story here. Then I moved up here and became as a teacher for 7 years. Great kids. Like I said, the boy that did all that stuff became really good friends. I'd pass his house, wave to him or whatever. And then it got just like in other districts, layoffs started. And unfortunately, last hired, first fired, and I got laid off. there were two other teachers that had to come back before me, and we couldn't come back. One actually wound up taking a teaching job somewhere else, and another teacher went into a different field. Um, so unfortunately, I didn't go back. And when I tried to apply for other jobs, because of the fact I had the many years of teaching behind me, they wouldn't pay me the salary that would go with my experience. So luckily, I was able in New York, and the retirement tier that I was on was you could retire at 55 or 25 years of teaching. I came at 23 and a half years of teaching in New York. So when I turned 55, I took the retirement. And then I got bored. So I went back as a teacher assistant and helped out in a school with special education students. After a while, they moved to the school moved its to another school. It was what they have up here is BOCES, Board of Cooperative Educational, BOC, Board of Occupational Cooperative Educational Services. That's it. And they hire out different rooms in schools so you can go there. And they moved our special ed division to a school that was over an hour and a half drive from me. So I said, I can't do that every day. So I then left there and found a preschool job about 5 minutes from my house. So I started there as a teacher, and then they needed a director, and I stepped up to that. And that was a lot of fun. Playing, it's like, as I got interviewed for a local school, a local paper, I basically looked at the reporter and said, I'm getting paid to having fun. I'm having a blast with these kids, teaching them their letters, their colors. It was great. And then the pandemic hit. So when I hit with the pandemic, my daughter is an essential worker, and she needed someone to take care of her child, my grandchild. So my grandchild came here and lived with my partner and I during the pandemic, so my daughter could go to work. So because of that, I then left the preschool. But even though the pandemic's been rough on everybody, in a roundabout way, I've been studying holistic health and healing, and a whole different avenue of, I started a business called Peaceful Vibes, which is a sound healing business. So I've been trying to get that off the ground too, but still keeping an eye on different things, and doing some activism as like the city where I live has a community fridge. So it gets stocked 24/7. So I help out by putting food in there and helping people out, and at local activist groups about different topics and such. But getting back to teaching, even though I've been in since, like I said, 89, and I still kind of keep up with what's going on because my grandchild's in school and my partner's children are in school. It's some things have changed and some things are still the same, and it really needs an overhaul, if I could say that. So that's basically my little thing, unless you want to do some questions and answers. Yeah,
Well, I do.
there you go.
You definitely have a whole, you lived an entire journey, it sounds like. So tell me what got you into teaching in the first place. Why teach at all?
My teaching? Wow. A lot of people I know, my friend's daughter, when she was 5, was asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? And she said, I want to be an island princess. For me, at the age of 9, I wanted to be a teacher. So I mean, I was trying other things, but it was just, no matter what I did, it was like, no, I got to be a teacher. So that's how I got into it, just being since a kid, which was kind of funny because we had a, schools celebrate Dr. Seuss Day. And one day, one of the administrators walked into the classroom to read Dr. Seuss book. And I don't even remember the Seuss book, but it was something about careers or something to that effect. Or they asked, and they opened up the topic to the kids. And I was teaching grades 3, 4, and 5. And one of the kids asked him, like, how do you know you wanted to go as a teacher? And he said, oh, and he gave like, I had 4 or 5 different ideas in my head. He goes, I don't think anybody's ever had it since a child. And he looked and he went, right, Ms. Lindon? And I said, ooh, sorry, no, I was 9. I always wanted to be a teacher since 9. No, sorry.
So it's a childhood passion. You always had that passion for teaching, for helping kids.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I have a younger sister who's 9 years apart. So I used to sit with books and read to her, or, other things. So, yeah, I guess it's been like in me since birth, I guess. I don't know.
Of course, of course. So you originally started teaching in Yonkers, right?
Right. Yes.
And then you moved upstate.
Right.
So can you talk about the difference in culture at the schools between Yonkers and Central New York?
Oh. Oh, that's loaded. Oh, yeah, I will compare the 2 classrooms. I can do it that way and not get myself into trouble. Um, and I mean, Yonkers, is very diverse, which I love. I love it dearly. And I moved up here and it's um, not at all. So that was one thing. I went from diversity to it being, let's see, how can I put this nicely? Vanilla. That would be one thing. Another thing is in growing up now, I also have to put that I was born and raised and went to the schools in Yonkers. So looking at that, which was kind of funny because I worked with some of my teachers and walked up and went, hey, you used to be my social studies teacher. It's kind of weird calling them by their first names after you had them. But we had like a smart board that the entire school shared. We had books, like I said, that, we had a hit list like of what we wanted and we had to make do. Whereas I walked up here, I went for one interview and the lady was all excited, like, oh, you come from Yonkers, it's a cutting edge school. And I'm like, yeah. And she walked me around in her classroom and every last classroom had a smart board. Now, I don't know what they go for now, but at that time, and I've been up here a little over 10 years, they were going to close to $2,000 a piece. And every classroom had one and my mouth just dropped. Every classroom had 4 or 5 computers at that time. I know that Yonkers has computers now. I know Yonkers has come a long way in books and everything. So I am not degrading Yonkers. I still am active in their union and everything. So please, if anybody's from Yonkers, I am not putting you down. But I also see up here too, I had gone to one conference, teacher conference up here, and I literally walked out of it because one teacher was saying, oh, this is all cutting edge. And I don't even remember what the style was. And I just looked up and said, honey, I've been doing this for the past 12 years. Not cutting edge to me, sorry. So Um, that was what I've noticed up here. You know, I always said that they should actually have a reality show where teachers within the state should move from one school to another. Like people in central New York should go down to the inner city schools and vice versa and see exactly what the other end is. And to be quite honest, I mean, I would think that anybody who came up here would go, I died and went to heaven. And the other teachers would be running out screaming in 5 minutes. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that now.
Well, no, but I mean, you're being honest. Like there's a difference between schools in the city and schools more in suburbia, upstate. So you're not putting down Yonkers schools. There is a disparity between the two areas of New York. So you're
Right. And also, I also live near Utica, and one of the things that one of the activist groups I belong to is trying to get things done in their school district. And I would look and say, hey, I can help you out because your school district sounded like the district that I worked in. So I can help you get around things and help you ask for stuff. You know, so that's, to me, I think I've been an asset to them because Utica is a city, and seeing that I see a lot of things that have happened 15, 20 years ago down in Yonkers and Westchester, which is where I grew up, compared to up here where I myself am under the impression that it's just now people are now taking notice where it's been noticed about 10, 15 years ago. I feel like I'm an asset up here.
And what is it that you have that people see as an asset?
My attitude and big mouth, maybe, for starters. The fact that one of the things I noticed, like, I'm going back 2 years maybe. Every school has a code of conduct, and people up here were having a problem with the code of conduct that the school district up here put out, and the wording, and they couldn't understand why it was worded in such a way. And I said to them, it's worded in such a way because it's been tested. Pardon the tone here is like they call anybody that comes from Westchester, New York City, everything, they call it downstate from where I am now. So I would say to them, it's been tried and tested downstate, and therefore the legalese of these terms are why they has to be this way, which they didn't quite get until I explained it to them. That would be one thing.
Right. So you had a little bit more knowledge about the rules and regulations and how things are presented.
Right. And when they turn around and they said, well, we want these things done, or we would like to see things done, and we don't know how to get to it, or they have some blowback, I would say, okay, been there, done that. Let me give you some suggestions, and see how that goes.
Of course. So now you started off in general ed, right? And then you switched over to special ed?
No, the certification that I have is it's more broad than what it is than today's teachers. What I have for certification is special education. It's a broad view again, birth through age 21, and special education from nursery to grade 6. Those are mine. Whereas now they break it down to other grades and other things. But yeah.
Oh, so you were in special education this whole time?
Right, except for the preschool. The preschool originally hired me as a teacher because the children, there were a couple of children there that had some behavior issues and they didn't really know how to deal with them. So from being in special ed and then coming up here to Central New York, and one of the things I had to take while I was up here in special ed was crisis training. So they hired me because of those skills, and plus the fact that I was certified in elementary.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was it? What's it like teaching in special education classrooms? How do you think it would be different from a general education classroom?
Oh, okay. Basically, even if a child is in special education, they still have to learn the exact same things that a regular ed child has to learn. I mean, we have to follow the same curriculums. We have the same books. We have this, like the Common Core now is what we have to do, and they have to follow that too. The difference is on how regular, I hate saying regular and special, it's just whatever, but labels. The regular ed classroom, they have a certain way of, let's say, 2 pages, 4 pages or something. They just go straight through. Whereas a special ed, you say, okay, I'm going to present it like the regular ed teachers do. But they have special education children. Let me back up a little. Special education children have something called an IEP, an individualized educational program. So, and when you get a student that's in special ed, this IEP comes with them, which is basically a committee, and the parents and the teacher would sit down and come up with a plan on how the student learns, goals that they should meet or whatever. It could say little Johnny doesn't quite understand it if you stand up there and talk all the time. He needs manipulatives. So when you do multiplication or something, we would come out with different things, like, what was one of the things we used? Oh, graham cracker bears. That's what we used to do. And we would put them and say, okay, take the graham cracker bears and make 3 groups of 3. Whereas a regular ed teacher would probably go, okay, 3 times 3 and whatever, and move on. They would even do the graham cracker bears, but they move on. Whereas you may have to sit for maybe 2 weeks with Johnny going, okay, let's take the bears, let's move them around. You can use the bears, it's fine. Things like that. For me, when I taught, I had my own way of teaching. I mean, every teacher has their own way. Thankfully, Yonkers is our union and way of teaching down there was one size does not fit all. So yes, we would follow the curriculum, we would follow everything, but your style of teaching was your own. Just so long you cover what it is, and the kids have to do what they have to do. So what I would do is present it, whatever let's say 2 plus 2. Present it to the class, put out manipulatives, projects. Find me 2 things and 2 things. One of my favorite ones, and the teacher and the principal loved it because she knew we would, on geometry at that point, was a scavenger hunt. And I would give them a sheet of find me a right angle. So they would find like the door and they would write it down. Find me this thing. Find me a pentagon. Find me a 4-sided closed figure. And they would run around the floor of the school looking for them. So I did a lot of things that they would be project-wise for the kids. So they learned. That to me is a little different than a regular ed classroom.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, so let's jump ahead to retirement. You obviously, since you were laid off, you had some trouble. You had some trouble looking for work, and then you decided the opportunity came up, you decided to retire. Can you get into that a little bit more?
um, sure. Sure. One of the things about me is I will definitely speak the truth and let the fur fly. Everybody who knows me in Yonkers, go, yeah, that's Deb. For anybody that worked at BFP or in BOCES, definitely would say the same thing. Yeah, I actually got my teaching job up here. I taught in one district up here because the superintendent came from Queens. So she hired me because I was from downstate. Then when I looked for another job, I got hired again. The supervisor there came from, I'm going to say Long Island, I'm not 100% certain, but again, from the area that I came from, and I got hired that way. When they had to lay off teachers and everything, then I actually went to one job where I handed the resume, and right in front of me, the two people looked and pointed and went, "Oh, she's from Yonkers. Just humor her." So yeah, it was pretty rough. I think also another time too, I had gone for one, and they said, "Oh, so what was your salary?" And downstate, and when I told them, they were kind of shocked because obviously the cost of living down there is much more expensive than it is in central New York. So they looked at my salary and went, "No, you can't do that." And I'm like, "Look, I'm willing to take a pay cut." So I took a hefty pay cut to teach. But again, like I said, the cost of living up here is different than downstate. I also got, as a thing too about the retirement, was a lot of the teachers were pretty angry at me whenever the topic of retirement came up and we were talking, because they would say, "Oh, well, you're retiring," because they would say, "Well, when I retire, I'm going to get X amount a month, and I'm going to get X amount a month, and I hope I can live on X amount a month." And then they would turn to me and just say, "But you taught downstate, so obviously your retirement's a lot bigger than mine." And my answer would be like, "Well, I'm sorry that you didn't decide to branch out and try to get a job somewhere else. Sorry."
So there was like a stereotype about teachers from downstate.
There's a stereotype about people from downstate in general, but within the educational field, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I worked with some great people, really nice people. We got along great, and then there were a few that would actually literally not talk to me because of my New York accent, because of I come from downstate, because I would say, "Gee, why are you doing this A, B, and C? The feds want you to do this way, this way. Oh, the state actually wants you to do it this way, this way, this way." And my response to a couple of people would be like, "Well, if that's the way you feel, then go back down." And I'm like, "I just don't want to even try to get you in trouble, because if the state decides to walk in here and check your records and check this, you as a teacher could get nailed for doing A, B, and C." And they were like, "They don't come here. They probably have to Google to find out where we go." So yeah, it was very. It was. I had a lot of good experience with some teachers up here, and I also had a lot of not so good experiences.
So would you ever recommend someone become a teacher?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, I definitely would. I'm going to put my recommendation out right now. Um, to become a teacher is, you have to be really committed. Your hours do not end when that school bell rings. And actually, my partner could know this. Been with my partner for 10 years, and we've been living together for 5 of those 10 years. And he never really saw me during the week being a teacher until I moved in here and then started working as the preschool, because the director also had a lot of work and such. And he'd be like, can you ever stop? And I'm like, hey, welcome to being a teacher. But it's very rewarding. It's a lot of work. Like I said, you don't take it, you don't, at 3:00, you don't just close your books and leave. It's a lot of prep work, a lot of work. If you are in special education, it's more demanding because you have to write those IEPs and reports and everything else. But when you see those kids walk in and you see smiles and you see the kids that don't, just the growth. Another anecdote story comes to mind. I had gotten like I said, I taught 3, 4, and 5, and I had a 5th grader come in, and the school that I taught in goes up to grade 5, and then they go to middle school. So they had a graduation. And we had a student that came in who could not read. But yet for some reason, the IEP said they could and everything else. Okay. This child somehow regressed to the point that they couldn't read. My assistant and I worked with the child. And at the end in June, when we did our moving up ceremony for the kids, my principal, who was fantastic, had one student from each class give a little speech, and my class was also included in on it. This child asked my assistant to write her, help her write her speech. And to be honest with you, it was not a dry eye in that place, because her opening statement was, when I got to this school, I could not read, and Miss L and Miss M, that's what the kids called us, taught me how to read, and I am now standing here reading this to you. And when she got finished, and then she went on with the speech, obviously. Then when she got finished, I looked up because I didn't hear anybody clapping. And I was getting a little ticked, like, how dare you not clap? I mean, this girl really worked. And all I saw were parents wiping their eyes, because it was just absolutely beautiful. And if you can have children that can do that, to me, not enough money in the world could replace that for me or for any teacher. So if you are really dedicated, become a teacher.
So despite the hours, despite the low pay, despite the lack of resources that you may have to put up for out of pocket, you still recommend people become a teacher?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Your heart has to be there. It is something, it's not, you can't climb a corporate ladder, but I still have kids that track me down on Facebook 20 years later and say, hey, Miss L, I didn't even see you on Facebook. Hey, I just want you to know how we're doing. And it's great to see them. It really is.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So we are starting to wind down. So do you have any final advice for the people watching? Actually, before we get to that,
Mhm.
you decided to start your own business. So after the pandemic, you had to leave to take care of your family. So instead of being like a tutor or part-time teacher somewhere, you decided you're just going to start your own business and go into holistic healing. So it sounds like you made a complete shift.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've always been a proponent of holistic things, of whatever. Science is like one of my favorite things to do. And the story is of how I got into this is a friend of ours, my partner and I asked about going to a sound healing session. And I've heard about these for years, never been to one. I went with her, and it was amazing. It's an amazing experience. I had a pain in my back. I felt better afterwards and whatever. 2 months later, she said, "Hey, there's another one. We want to go." Brought my partner. His back was bothering him. After the whole sound healing session, he was like, "Wow, my back feels so much better." The person who gave the session, I started talking to him, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to do some classes. You want to sign up?" And I did. Got totally involved. Actually, in a course that starts next week on sound healing. I did a sound healing. I was part of a wellness summit about 2 weeks ago, talking about sound healing. And yeah, it's great because for me, one of the perks of having my own business is if my daughter needs help or something, I can like rearrange my schedule because the boss can do that. So it's really it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing that too.
So tell me about the pivot. Why did you just get away from education entirely?
Um, hmm. Well, I think honestly, personally, from having kids go into crisis kind of wears me down after 24 years. So I just basically was like, I can't emotionally or physically do this anymore. As much as I love being a teacher, I can't do this anymore. So I wanted to do something else. And in my mind, teaching is helping kids be better. So by doing this, I'm kind of still like a teacher because I'm helping people relax, helping people deal with stress, helping people deal with pain management by the sound healing. So I guess just kind of shifted from one mode of teaching to another.
Right. You figured out you have more than one passion. I know you talked earlier about being passionate about teaching at 9 years old, and then you rode that wave, and then curveball came, and
Hmm.
boom, you went in a completely different direction.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, I mean, to take one passion, which was my teaching, and now following another passion, I think is good. I think, like you said, I just rode the wave. And I mean, I'm still kind of in education because when my grandchild was up here for the year, she had to log on and for her education. And there were times when she got off and she's like, Noni, I don't understand what the teacher's saying. I'm totally lost. So even though, I'm kind of out of teaching, I sat with her. So it's more like an ebb and flow type of thing, like helping out and doing such.
Of course, of course. All right, so now we get back to the advice. So now we're winding down. Okay,
Okay.
so do you have any final words of advice for anyone watching right now? Anyone that wants to go into teaching, or wants to get out of teaching, or wants to retire, or anything? Any final words of advice that you'd like to give?
If you're a teacher right now, um, I would say just hang in there. I know it's a different curve. Your life just threw you a curveball with this pandemic and the online teaching. Um, it's basically, as I would say to anybody, and even the student teachers I had in the past, is you honestly don't know teaching till that door closes on you, and then yeah, you're in alone in the classroom with like 15 to 20 kids. Just find your mode of teaching, like I did, which was projects. Find your mode, and it's okay to change. It's just go with the flow and just be you as a teacher and be supportive to the kids. Those who want to go into teaching, definitely. In fact, I know um, we're friends. I have a friend who wants to go into teaching, and I am encouraging this person to do that. Um, do it if you can. Do the school that does the 5 years, and you walk out with your bachelor's and your master's. You're done. Um, I think um, it's a great profession, even though it's tough and challenging. I think it's a great profession, and if I had to do it all over again, yeah, sign me up. I'll be a teacher again.
All right. Fabulous. Fabulous. All right. So I'm going to put up Debbie's contact information right now. So if you would like to learn more about Debbie's business, which is holistic healing, I believe, her, right? Is it
Sound healing. Yeah,
sound
sound
healing.
healing. Yeah.
Yeah, sound healing. So what is that all about? What is, just briefly go into sound healing?
Oh, sound healing. Sound healing is been around for about over 1,000 years. It's just listening to different sounds and vibrations. Because best example I could give would be if you want to get things done quickly, you kind of put on like some music that's very upbeat and get your body moving, and you start pumping around or whatever. And so different vibrations, different forms affect your body. So with the sound healing, I use Tibetan bowls, I use gongs, I use other things that on different tones, different vibrations, different things that affect the cells and everything in your body to bring them into balance.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so if you are interested in learning more about those services, if you want to get those services for yourself, her contact information is scrolling at the bottom. So definitely visit her website online. You could also check her out on social media. She is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And just to reiterate her website is peacefulvibes.vpweb.com. So definitely check her out, follow her on social media, and definitely look to her services. So Debbie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I'm going to put you backstage now, and it's just you and me, guys. All right. So I'm going to put up my information here. So if you would like to learn more about our services, a step ahead tutoring services, our contact information is scrolling below. We are on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Eventbrite. So definitely give us a follow. If you are interested in learning about our services, our workshops specifically, you can visit us online at www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com to learn more about the things that we have to offer. Please check out our other clips on our YouTube channel and don't forget to subscribe. You could also find us at Step Ahead Tutoring Services on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So please check those out. And one last thing before I close. So currently, we are collecting donations to our crowdfunding campaign on ifundwomen.com. We have a unique link that is scrolling below. So the funds will be used to reach out to families nationwide. It'll be used to keep our staff employed, be able to do web series like this, get the word out like this, to provide free and low cost services, to do free and low cost workshops. The funds will be, all money will be going to a great cause. And I encourage you to donate as much as you can or as little as you can. You know, every dollar counts, every cent counts, and every little bit that you can give will go a long way. So please visit our crowdfunding campaign page at ifunwomen.com. Please visit our unique link below and donate, donate, donate. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being with me at this fantastic episode. I hope to see you at the next episode. So tuning in, signing off. Bye.